Hey folks, Twisted Christian. I want to give you guys a little bit more breaking news, at least in the way that I see it. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Vietnamese Dong, which is, in my opinion, going to be the second major currency that's going to revalue during the global currency reset. Now, my personal take is, and the way that I'm looking at things is, the Iraq Dinar is going to revalue first. It's going to be one of the major currencies, and there'll probably be some other currencies that will change in value, whether it goes up or down with some of those currencies. But I think right now, the way technology is and the way things are going, and we've been in this for many years, and yet we haven't seen a global currency reset. But with new technology and the CBDCs, I see it more clearly and clearly, especially if we're going to a new system. And that system that we're looking for a currency system that is backed by gold, precious metals, and other commodities. That's what we are looking for. Now, one of the things that I want to bring understanding, because a lot of people have shared with me, and probably many of you, I just thought that, cryptocurrency, the banks hate cryptocurrency, and they're not going to deal with cryptocurrency, and they're not going to try to do anything like cryptocurrency. But over the last couple years, we're seeing more and more of it. We know that many banks and government institutions have banned Bitcoin or wouldn't allow you to purchase cryptocurrency. And we've even seen with Binance now that the UK government and a few other governments, they've banned certain types of trades. And we know that Vietnam has banned Bitcoin for payments. So Iraq has a lot of restrictions with cryptocurrency, and I think even outright banned. But one of the things that we all thought, that these central banks were not trying to go to this blockchain system, right? They hated cryptocurrency. And as I've shared with you, over time, more and more, we are seeing these central banks coming out. They're either studying it, or they're working on it, or they're developing it, or they're already testing it. And with this article here, which I discussed before, the Bank of Israel has already tested a digital shekel. But the whole world didn't know that they were already at that phase. Right? So I believe a lot of other countries are doing this. I think there are some countries that are being very transparent and are letting you know everything, what's going on, all their testing phases. You can read their reports. But I think Israel's a little bit in a different position because they have a lot of enemies, and there's a lot of people in the world that have a negative opinion of Israel. So I definitely understand why they would do this in secret. But it just goes to show that they are working on this. And I have said before, somehow, some way, that the CBDCs and this blockchain technology is going to be a part of the global currency reset. Whether they launch some CBDCs and then we have a global reset, or maybe we have a global reset before the launch, or maybe we have a global reset sometime after all these central banks start launching their digital coin. For all we know, we'll be able to buy Iraq Dinar CBDC before even the revalue, but that all remains to be seen. So we know that the central banks, they're working on this plan. They're coming together. Some of the central banks have their own little idea how they want to run things. But I think all together, it's all going to come under one major system. It's very well possible that some countries use XRP, some use Ethereum, or some other to facilitate the transactions and settlements. So Israel and many other countries are testing this in secret. And I've already shared with you guys a list of countries. They're like on the verge of like really launching, but I think in order for them to do that, a lot more countries have to be on board with it. This is where we are at. Many governments, many central banks are already working on a CBDC. Whether they have mentioned it in the media or not, if most of the central banks are going to go to a CBDC, then all the other central banks are going to follow suit. All right, but the next thing is, again, this goes to where the central banks are at with CBDCs. I'm not going to read this article, but the Bank of France carries out fifth CBDC experiment with BNP Paribas Euroclear. This experiment made it possible to test the integration of issuance and settlement activities, including exchanges on the secondary market, said the Bank of France. So they've already did test 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do believe, and I've shared this, the euro is going to have its own CBDC, and they have talked about using XRP, and I think a lot of banks are going to do that. And we've discussed certain prophetic words concerning that. But this just goes to show how much closer we are. Now, do I think the RV will happen in 2021? It's very possible. But there are many other things that still have to take place that has nothing to do with the banking system. So this thing, now we're going to discuss the Vietnamese Dong. There's always a lot of talk about the Dong. And now we're getting reports and information that the Vietnam's prime minister asked the state bank to trial digital currency on the blockchain. Vietnamese news outlets have reported that the country's prime minister, Pham Minh Chinh, has tasked the State Bank of Vietnam with studying and conducting a pilot for digital currency. All right, so there we go. Boom, right? This is the second major currency that I see revaluing. And we see now that they are already working on a CBDC. Now, one of the things that I'm going to point out in this article, it says here, the central bank is expected to work on the development of the implementation of the pilot from 2021 to 2023. Well, if they're only just starting it, you mean to tell me they're going to be able to test the CBDC within 6 months if they've just been studying it, right? So I think they're a lot further than what they are actually telling us. And we know 2023 is a long way out. Vietnamese politicians' embrace of blockchain technologies in principle remains distinct from their broad hostility to the decentralized currencies that have popularized the underlying protocols. The country banned Bitcoin in 2018 as a means of payment, while retaining individuals and enterprises' rights to privately invest in crypto. It says right here, the ban was soon followed by a directive to credit institutions to restrict services provided to digital currency related activities in order to mitigate the money laundering risk. Despite both moves, there has not been a formal regulatory framework in the place for crypto exchanges operating in the country. Now, we know that a lot of regulations are coming. We know that the SEC is talking about it. We know Janet Yellen is talking about it. We know that other countries are talking about heavy regulations. We talked about South Korea and the possibility of over 200 exchanges shutting down. But whatever regulatory framework that they are going to develop, it has to really include CBDCs because they will be guided by the same principles. Now listen to this. Another interviewee, Mr. Chi, who is the deputy at the head of the UEH finance facility, stressed that acting fast would be necessary for the country to be competitive as the momentum behind CBDCs continues to grow. Vietnam News contends that the CBDC issuance could be useful for smaller countries in a global system dominated by the US dollar and, to a lesser extent, the euro and yen. Chi, however, in addition to calling for acceleration of the CBDC study and development, stressed the potential risk for the country's financial and monetary security. And this is what former President Trump said about all the currencies being on an even level playing field, right? You're going to have all these currencies that are devalued and you want to bring them up to where they are supposed to be. And then you're going to have some currencies that need to come down where they are supposed to be, right? It's the global currency reset is not just about all these currencies going up, which there will be a lot of them that will, but there are going to be some that do come down. And I believe some of those may be in the Middle East, but all that remains to be seen. This is one of the things that I was thinking about. And it's not about what God wants to do. What God wants to put all these countries on an even playing field, but be competitive. We know that the previous administration was striving to do that. Now, if the plan was to put all the currencies on an even playing field, well, wouldn't that diminish the dollar? No, because if everything is based off of gold, commodities, precious metals, right, it's not going to crash the dollar. There is this other article that I do want to discuss, and what it does say. Now, basically, it just says the same thing as a lot in the other article, but this article says something different that caught my attention. Currently, the traditional currencies of the U.S., Euro, Japan have had a great influence in the world currency basket and international trade. But in the race to develop new technology, some believe that many small countries like Vietnam may also have the opportunity to rise up and have an influence on the global financial system instead of traditional currencies. Now listen, the reason why a digital version of the Vietnamese Dong would be relatively more popular than any other digital currencies are unclear. What is clear is that, tell me folks, if they were to put this, if Coinbase was to offer Vietnamese Dong on Coinbase right now before the RV, how many would you go out there and start making those purchases? Right? I know I would be. If the Iraq Dinar was to launch a CBDC before the RV, would you buy the Iraq Dinar CBDC? I would. And here to answer this question, the reasons why a digital version of the Vietnamese Dong would be more popular than other digital currencies, because we believe that it's part of the global currency reset. We believe that their economy is strong, their nation is strong, they have a lot of commodities, and their currency should be closer to the dollar than where it is now. A whole lot closer. So that's why we believe that it would be more popular. And people all the time, they ask about the Dong, the most talked about currency other than the Iraqi dinar as far as in the global currency reset world. Also, what is this going to do to all the physical currency dealers when these CBDCs launch? You know, you could go to Dinar Inc. or even a few others like Exchange of America, which has tons of currencies. And what's going to happen to those currency dealers once people stop buying physical currency and are able to buy it on, say, Coinbase, right? Especially before the RV. So if you are a currency dealer and you're listening to this, you might want to change your business because eventually, if they decide to start launching some of these cheaper CBDCs, a lot of people are going to pick those up, and they're not even going to have to worry about buying the physical currency. So say for instance, if you were able to go to the Exchange of America and you see like tons of currencies that you could buy, but imagine that if you could go there and then buy the CBDC version of that currency. And it may be very well, just like supply and demand, when these countries start launching CBDCs, a lot of them may just take off for the simple fact that they're in demand. That simply launching a CBDC is going to increase the value of that currency. But I will say this. We all know that Iraq Dinar is going to be the first country to revalue in the global currency reset. Now, it's not to say that some of these countries might do this fake revalue where they go up 5 cents or whatever, 1 cent to 6 cents or 1 cent to 4 cents or 5 cents, whatever the case. We know that the Iraq Dinar is going to go first, be the first major currency, probably with a few other currencies, and then the Vietnamese Dong. Now, when it comes to the CBDCs in Iraq, they're basically virtually silent. They've banned a lot of Bitcoin trading in Iraq, but we know that there are companies in there trying to help digitize Iraq, right? So they're not talking about CBDCs. So basically right now, where Iraq stands, like you have this company like MasterCard, is in agreement to help digitize payments in that country. The aim is to make this largely cash-driven society a more cashless place, while also hoping to boost financial inclusion, encourage social economic development, and mitigate the risk of a shadow economy, right? Because everything is done with cash, everything's done under the table. You could go buy something, you don't have to pay taxes on it. There's a lot of things that you could do with the money, and the government will never know that you did what you did. Right now, MasterCard and a few other banks are trying to help digitize Iraq. Now, they're completely silent on the CBDCs, so I am expecting at some point a leak or something somewhere down the road that will show us that they are working on a CBDC. So this is the way that I'm looking at this, folks. CBDCs may or may not be the catalyst to the global currency reset, but it is the groundwork, the mechanics behind it that is being worked on, that is playing out right now, right? That is forming and shaping. And however, God has designed the global currency reset because in Kim Clement's prophecies it said it's going to happen in one day. This is what you're going to see, right? According to the prophetic words in the global currency reset. There's going to be an issue with the economy. There's going to be an issue with the central banks. There's going to be an issue with conflict and high gas prices and everything else. When things seem at their worst and everything is crashing, boom, the next day, in one day, it's going to start when things seem at their worst. And it's not going to have anything to do with the CBDCs as far as when things seem at their worst. Now, it's not to say that when they start launching these CBDCs and somehow, some way, it causes a financial crisis, right? Launching of the CBDCs, could it cause a financial crisis? Especially if it's not backed by anything. If it's just the same old, or some other issue, who knows how all this is going to work out. But I believe that the CBDCs is the groundwork, is going to be the technology that's going to help facilitate the dinar revaluation, and then all the other currencies will follow. And that is how I look at it. And whatever the case is, in the end, on the day of the RV, whenever the global currency reset starts, that is the system that God has put in place. So like I said, folks, this is my opinion. I'm just giving you what I'm thinking just from studying the prophetic words concerning the global currency reset and looking at all the media that's talking about these CBDCs and all the other things that are taking place and that are going to happen. And I've shared with you folks, I believe there's going to be a major conflict before the revaluation. But are we going to see this go through 2022 before we see any kind of RV? My personal opinion is, if that dinar is going to be the first one to revalue, I am not going to invest a lot of money into other currencies. I'm just going to continue to stack the Iraqi dinar. Now, with that, I do think at some point, maybe some of these cryptocurrencies that have been talked about help facilitate these transactions, Ethereum, XRP, and now we're even looking at Digibyte. It's very well that we could actually become wealthy before the global currency reset. But that all remains to be seen. One of the things is the XRP has to be able to be tradable on many of the platforms, and it still is not today. There's only a few platforms we can still buy XRP, which the link is down below in the description. The CBDCs start to launch before any type of currency reset. Let's say like the Vietnamese Dong, right? I'm just going to buy just a little bit, just to have some, just to say I have the Dong CBDC. And of course I may buy a few others, the Crones and so forth. And I'm wouldn't spend very, very much, because all my attention is going to be focused on the dinar, because when the dinar revalues, I'm going to be able to take that money and buy all the other currencies that I think that is going to revalue. Right? And it'll be very easy. Now, if the CBDCs are in play, it's going to be even easier to do that, unless that country has not launched a CBDC. So my whole goal is to, when the dinar revalues, I'm going to take a lot of that and put it into a lot of the other currencies that I think that are going to revalue. However, the CBDCs are in play during that time period, I have no idea. The Iraq Dinar CBDC could already be launched. The Vietnamese Dong CBDC could already be launched. It's going to make it a lot easier. All of the CBDCs could be launched before the global currency reset. But We could be stuck in the middle of the launch of the CBDCs, or the RV could happen before any CBDC is officially launched. But regardless of how it happens, whether if I have to go and get physical currency or if I have to go and purchase CBDC currency, I am stacking my dinar and take those profits and then put it into all the other currencies. We're going to have a very short window from the Iraq dinar to the Vietnamese dong. I'm literally looking at a 24 to 48 hour window. I will need to be getting my hands on some Vietnamese dong. And if they don't have it in the digital currency yet, but only in the physical, I'm going to be ordering a whole lot of Vietnamese dong and other currencies that I'm looking at that I think that are going to revalue. So that's my strategy in all of that. And like I said, folks, however all this plays out is going to be designed by God, because I have shared many Kim Clement videos in talking about this new system. So if you want to go back, you'll have to start back from the very beginning and listen to all the videos, because I can't show it every video. With a new system that's going to be in place, and it's going to be in place in one day. It doesn't mean that it's going to be all put together in one day. It's already being put together now. And then when it's time, when God says it's time, boom, it's going to happen. So folks, leave a comment down below in the description. If the Vietnamese dong was the launch of CBDC or even the Iraq dinar before the global currency reset, would you buy it like on Coinbase? I know I would. And I also think it's going to make it much easier to purchase a lot of these currencies that may not revalue a year from now. Right? So we got to look at that, because there are many different currencies. I really think some of these South American currencies are not going to revalue at the same. I think some of them are going to take a long time, maybe a year. But I think Mexico is going to be the one that's going to be in that first, second, or third major currency launch. So folks, I'm really excited. All this is coming together. I think we still have a lot of time right now until we see the acceleration of when things seem at their worst. So folks, I thank you for listening. God bless. And with that being said, Twisted Christian out.